that's some preliminary cleaning. Now what I'm going to do is remove the chassis from the cabinet. My goal here is to try and not touch any of the convergence assembly, because I would like to see how the set looks without having touched any of that. Once I get the safety capacitors replaced and likely the multi-cap updated to individual capacitors, haven't touched anything other than those few things, which I'll do. So at this point I'm going to discharge the tube here. The chassis should work fine for this set because the CRT is actually grounded here through this dirty yellow gross connection down to the chassis. So we're just going to use the chassis on this one as a ground point. Yeah, not sure if there's even a charge on this. Not that I noticed. All right. Ow. Boy, is that hard as a rock. Ugh, gross. Somebody put dielectric on that by the feel it. All right. Yuck. So we'll move that out of the way. I wonder if these little tie backs will actually still work. Normally they just crumble. Wow, look at that. These things still, they aren't brittle yet. Amazing. All right, so this will be our convergence adjustment. Gotta be careful with some of these because if you really wrench on them, you'll break the tabs on the chassis connector, and I don't want to do that. There we go. Let's get the yoke connector out of there. These grounds. Normally this would tuck up under there. Might not for me here. These don't want to go any place they haven't been for the last 50 years. Take our CRT ground off. Oh, that's sharp. Ow. Oh, come on. There we go. Yuck. It's so gooey. All right. Pull our IF input. Front control panel controls. If it's still in view. And of course, I did take pictures of all these connections before I took them off, though I do have, I guess, other sets I could look at, as well as all the manuals. Speaker. Degaussing the coil. Let's say it's easier to remove, I think, than a Chromacolor 2 chassis. All right, and that should be it. There are 4 1/4-inch screws on the underside. What did I just take out? took out the wrong screw. Oh, I took out the... That wasn't the chassis, that was one of the screws for the lower vent panel. There is a panel under here. You could take the pedestal off and access the bottom of the chassis, but I could see having to do that for a running test, but man, what a pain that would be. They're not hard to get out. Pretty impressed with how clean this TV is with just some minor dust. The nice thing is too, it still has its shields. My other two are missing those. So that's about it. If I'm right, the chassis should be free and it should pull straight back and out. There you go. This is pretty cool. This is a solid state TV chassis, and it has Dura modules up top for easy servicing. But underneath it is all hand wired, like the older tube chassis. It's really something. I mean, really cool stuff. Definitely doesn't deserve to be a cat bed. All right. So I'm gonna pull this out, and actually, while I have the vacuum cleaner, I'm gonna turn it and I'm gonna just clean this gunk out of here. Obviously taking great care around the neck of the tube here. If you bump that, you're gonna be looking for a new tube. I'm not going to keep pushing my luck around that because this tube tests good and I really don't want to have to source another one. So anyway, I'm going to take this chassis, we're going to put it on the workbench, and we'll catch up with you there. All right, so I got the chassis flipped up onto the bench here. I took my paintbrush again and cleaned up very carefully some more of the dust that gets attracted to all this high voltage stuff like the focus control and things up in here. So obviously very careful to make sure I didn't bend any leads or short anything. As you can see, it is completely hand wired. So there are two of the safety capacitors up top and there is one down here, so 3 total. To replace those, I'm using these, if I can focus in on that, these are 22 5001, the orange. Not sure if Sprague made these or not. Anyway, so that's what I'm going to use to change them, and that's what you should do if you run into these white safety caps. They are not to be trusted. So I did buy replacement electrolytics. Again, recapping, I don't really like pulling these sets out from the wall once I get them going. I kind of just like to watch them. So whether you recap or not is totally up to you. Normally that's how I do it. So I have my capacitors here. Sometimes I've used radial capacitors on these because there's so many more options for like longer life capacitors. I decided with this one, since these radial caps are, these axial caps, wherever they are. Yeah, there aren't a whole lot of options for these anymore. But I thought, you know what, since I'm trying to do this set and keep it kind of original looking as I can, even though it doesn't really matter because it's going to be in a cabinet, you can't see it, I thought I'd stick with radials because it might be the last time I can even find them. For the multi-cap, that is, this program sucks at focusing. Okay, the multi-cap is down here. What I thought to do, what I've done in the past is I have little mounting terminals, which are mounting lugs, which I of course don't have any on hand, so I'm gonna have to order those too. I'm gonna use that, and I typically just solder it in here and mount the caps kind of down here somewhere. I thought, hey, I'll use one of those cool Adaptacap things. But the problem is they have mounting holes on the opposing sides, like 180 degrees apart from one another. And on the other side of this, there is an IF shield here, and then the edge here. There's no place that I could fit a set of mounting screws. So unfortunately, these are the kind of like twist tab type. And I've also in the past on radios cut the multicap apart, taken all the guts out, and then you can't really solder to the wiring that's inside it, so you have to drill holes, solder wires to the terminals, epoxy the cap back on. It doesn't really look great, and honestly, this is going to be in a cabinet facing the wall. It's not like a tube amplifier. Oops, interrupted there by a phone call. But anyway, yeah, it's not like the tube radios, you know, where people polish them up and give them a mirror shine and stuff like that. So we can afford to be a little bit less cosmetically appealing here. So anyway, I'm going to start with the safety capacitors here, and then I will probably start moving on to these. And I haven't determined yet. When I've done the other two chassis, I did heat up these little eyelet things and actually pull the caps out and put new ones in. We'll see how that goes. I don't like to get them too hot because you start to mess up these boards here, so I have to play that by ear. I've had less luck on the Chromacolor 2 vertical chassis, where at this point I just kind of cut the leads and J-hook them to keep the heat out of these. But we'll see where we go. And then the switches. I don't know if I mentioned that before. Sorry, I'm trying to mess with the focus here. I don't know if that's freaking focused or not. Anyway, here's the service switch. And then, so this, I'm probably what I'm going to do with these. I only have one original, and they have these twist lock tabs. So the generic replacements are a little hard to get in here. So I'm probably going to take these switches apart as they are and clean them up really good and put them back together and treat them with some deoxit or something and try that. So there's that one. And then somewhere here, there's another one. I think it's right there. I'm going to do that to those, and that'll keep me from having to undo the wiring and all that. And we'll see how long they last. If they don't last, then we'll have to come back in. But anyway, yeah, so I'm going to get started on the safety caps, and then I'll get those mounting tabs ordered, and we'll go from there. one can see quite quickly why the J-hooking method is a heck of a lot faster, especially when you're dealing with the eyelets here that are grounds, the ground of the chassis, just one giant heatsink. Where's this wires right in my way? Oh. feet. Okay, this might be pretty hard to film because I'm going to get in the way of my camera. First off, I don't think that you want to see me sit here for 3 straight hours cussing and breathing heavily and mumbling to myself, replacing a bunch of these capacitors. So I don't think I'm going to film that part. But I thought I'd film this trying to get the switch out. And who am I kidding? There's going to be some cussing here because there's a lot of things connected to this. First of which is this carbon resistor needs to go. And I figure instead of heating up this probably unobtainium pot here, we'll just cook the let's cook the switch instead. Let's see if I can't get this free. As I splash molten solder in my face. Hey, all right. I didn't blind myself. All right. So we can... Hot. All right, that's out of the way. So... these aren't going to work. I need a better set of needle nose. All right, now if these aren't the right tools for the job, I don't know what are. You see that? Maybe, maybe not. Archer brand. Had these for years. I took them out of the toolbox when I was a kid and never put them back. Sorry, Dad. Keeping these. Probably get one opening of this switch because these tabs will break the second time. Really can't get a good angle on them, but come on. I've heard people say the only way to clean potentiometers is to take them apart and clean them. And I agree, that'll clean them, I guess. That's the best way to get in there, but I don't know how you put them back together more than once. Once you can. I don't know about the next time. I guess that's somebody else's problem. Come on. Easy. Don't want to damage that delay line. That would stink. Ooh. Bell fuse, I guess. Ah, I can't get to that one. You gotta be kidding me. Come on. Oh, my head's in the way, sorry. Okay, that might do it. Oh, good. So the terminals are not attached to the switch. So putting this back together is going to be a lot of fun. There goes one. As you can see here, if I can, I don't know if that's visible or not. Maybe. You can just barely see from that angle how some of these are black with oxidation. So what I'm gonna do, got a art eraser here. Let me turn this. Check the focus here. Can't really see it. I'm not sure if that's locked or not, but anyway. So here's the terminals. Try my best to clean this oxidation off. I would never use sandpaper or anything harsh on these, because you might damage what plating they might have. All right, I'm going to do the same thing to the other terminals, but I'm going to have to rotate it back so I can see. So, one sec. So I use the little eraser here. What I'm going to also do, I really like this stuff. It's actually in a pump action kind of thing. Just kind of put it on a Q-tip. And it like generally melts the oxidation right off. Of course, I've cleaned most of it off now, but next time I have a great example of this, I'll make sure to include it. Of course, now it's just full of cotton fibers, so. I can't find my other switch terminal, or switch contact. It fell down in here somewhere. So you can kind of see the difference here. The bottom one, it has not been cleaned, and the top contact, I just rubbed it with some of that deoxit. Just going to go a step further with this and give everything a nice cleaning with alcohol and get the dirt and the dust out of the switch. The old grease, get it out of there. That way when I'm reaching back there blind later trying to switch it, it actually moves. A little bit of, try this Bell 106 grease here, just a tiny little bit. Just put it on the extreme edges of the switch here. Let it move a little easier. I'll see if I can get this back together. Could be kind of fun because, yeah, I don't know. That might be kind of fun. I may have made a horrible nightmare for myself. That goes in. Oh, that feels a lot better than it did before. Question is, am I going to be able to keep these contacts in here? We may have to flip this chassis up on its end, which is going to stink because there's controls back here. Well, that's what I'm going to do, because this will be a nightmare otherwise. suppose the trick would be to put these down as straight as I can, but I'm going to have to give these a little more of a bending out if I want that to fall straight down on there. It's not easy with the wiring attached. That back one's not going in. There we go. Whew. Let's see if we can get these back down. Oh my gosh. Of course not. A bigger flathead would probably work. Or even maybe something that won't slip. Maybe I can use a Phillips. There we go. So I'm using the edges of the Phillips to grab the tab. I don't like being as close to this guy. Really get on there. Is that tight? There we go. Now left-handed. Man, are these really intense tabs here. I don't think I've ever seen any of these things so. I'm about to stand up to do this. Maybe if I use my thumb to help it. There we go. Man. There it is. All right. Pretty solid. Let's check it. Point 2, good. 3.2, good. Cool. Looks good. In comparison, let's take a look at the other switch. Oh, okay. Oh boy. Yeah. See, wiggling it around causes the contact to move. And oh my gosh. Yeah, I don't know if I trust that. Now, it hasn't been moved in 50 years, so. Oh boy. Yeah, we're probably going to want to clean that one too. And I think these were a problem on these. So anyway, I'm going to take that apart and clean it and I'll jump back with you when I get it cleaned, and we'll check the readings again. Okay, we've got that switch reassembled. Let's see what we got here. There we go, much better. Yep, good solid reading there. This will drive you nuts if it's not working. All right. So there are the two service switches. So I'm going to start going through here and recapping it, and I imagine that would be like watching paint dry. So I'll get all these done, and I'll catch back up with you then. And when I do the multicap over here, I'll show some of that, and then we'll put it back in and see if it works. All right, so I've got the electrolytic capacitors under here replaced, and I did go ahead and use a terminal strip down here to mount these guys. Don't rag on me too much, it's not pretty. I may still try and figure out if I can use an Adaptacap or something up there to make it a little bit less crappy looking. But, you know, it'll work for now. They're out of sight, and everything's hooked up, so I guess we'll see. The only thing I didn't do under here, which I might like to do, is replace the degausser unit here. I did go ahead for the heck of it, and I checked the capacitors I took out. These two were junk, one of which is up here, which goes in parallel with a 1.5 ohm resistor that was also out of tolerance a little bit, so we replaced that. The multicap section actually tested somewhat okay. One of the 400 sections I wasn't super happy with, but you know what, it might have worked for a little while until I got it into place against a wall on another floor of the house, and then it would blow up and crap out, and then I'd be dragging the TV back down here, which is why I generally just replace the dumb caps while I'm under here. Anyway, I do want to mess with the modules, so let's do that quick. So here is a 957 Duro module. They use these for quite a few years. The flat chassis used these kind of staggered pins, and the Chromacolor 2s with the vertical chassis, they use just straight sections of pins instead of these like staggered types. So the things I'll check on these, you can see maybe how, let's see if I can refocus here. I don't know if that's really visible, but the transistor here is actually, it's not secure. You can actually take it out for easy servicing. It's just pressed into these little terminals that hold this. They can get kind of tarnished and gross after a while, so a lot of people, I guess, would put dabs of solder on them. I've done that to a few. I guess it can hurt. The other thing is, I'll take a look at these solder connections back here. Some of these, just from age, have become kind of crystallized and gross, and I will generally just kind of reflow some of this anywhere it looks bad. Anywhere where there's a bigger component that might have had some vibration, or like a power resistor or something like that, that maybe had a lot of heat cycles on the legs. They generally sometimes get a little funky, so I'll touch those up. And then before I put it back in, see if I can focus this any better. You can see maybe there are these little fingers here, and they're on both sides, and I will just take a screwdriver and just kind of go along and push them in. Just the tiniest bit. Give them a little more grab. Sometimes the backs are hard to get to, but I like to think it does something. And of course I'll clean off the module too, where the focus is there. Sure, I like this program. You want to cram them in there, but anyway, you get the idea. Another thing maybe worth doing, and what I may do, even though I'm kind of trying, I mean, who are we kidding? I've already replaced a ton of parts. But something I might just do is actually mark where these are set, put some cleaner in there and work them around. Just so we're not having to, you know, deal with chasing our tail too much. But you know what, in the spirit of just seeing if this TV actually does anything, I'm going to leave them for now. So one other cool thing this set still has that are all original are these little plastic pull tabs to help you get the modules out. So I'm just kind of going over them and cleaning the dirt off, putting them back in. Ugh. Even has some of the original little locks. I'll put these on here and this module will blow out in 10 minutes and I'll have to come back and take these all back out. Right, put this back in. I will still take it apart. I'm not going to screw everything together just yet, because if it doesn't work, which I'm sure it's going to have some issue, maybe not though, it is a Zenith, I'll have to pull the whole thing apart back anyway. So I also might take the pedestal off and paint it. I know, sacrilege, but it's quite yellow. Maybe not. There we go. I was going to say there's normally a little catch on there. There we go. Okay. Speaker. Where's the speaker go? Gouging. Obviously, we also want to see if the speaker, or we're going to want to clean the tone controls too, but again, I just want to see what works and what doesn't. Nope. Nope. Make sure nothing built up on the tube while we were working on it. Doesn't seem like it. What I am going to do, and what I might recommend, is I'm going to clean around this cap area with some Windex or something, and just try and get the dust and goop out of there so I don't get any arcing. Ugh. Oh, it's disgusting. I think somebody used some dielectric grease or something on there. Ugh. That's disgusting. Well, we'll try it as is. I'm gonna have to get some alcohol and something a little more tough to put on there later. This anode cup is hard as a rock. I don't think that's gonna be long for this world. Whew. Boy, that's pretty terrible. Yuck. That's probably going to cause us some problems. That's pretty loose. Gross. I might have a cap, but I don't know if it'll fit both leads for that focus divider and the tripler. We'll have to see. Put our chassis ground on. Plug our yoke in. Sorry. Convergence assembly power there. Oh, there's got to be something else I'm missing besides the neck here. There she blows. The circuit breaker was not tripped when I brought it home, so if somebody tried it, they didn't pop the breaker. I checked this capacitor too, and it seemed to be functioning, so I didn't touch it. I believe this will cause blooming and things. I've actually had this pop a circuit breaker if they short. They start to get warm, you might want to replace it, I guess. Yeah. Let me grab a cord and hook some signal up to it. Well, I can tell you already that the sound works because it was on when I plugged it in and scared the absolute shit out of me. I don't recall if I heard high voltage though. Let's take the make offer sticker off here for this trial run. All right. Here goes nothing.
Peter, can I talk to you about Alana? I have an idea.
You can talk about anything you want.
No. Hey, look at that. Some color in it.
Come on, the clock is ticking.
Convergence is a little bit, a little bit off in the corners, which isn't uncommon. A little fuzzy. Actually, it is kind of off here too. Now these chromatic switches here really get dirty too, so that'll have to come out and get cleaned with the volume control and everything else. Now we can adjust the focus a little bit, see if it sharpens up at all. Yeah, the convergence is pretty far out. So that needs to be touched up. But so far so good. Cool. There you go. Not bad for 1973. Not sure how well that's showing up. I don't smell any cooking yet.
You know you have a pool in the backyard? It was just overgrown with grass and weeds.
Cannonball!
There's no water in it, though.
Cool. Well, so far so good. So we'll go through the next steps and try and make the tube look a little better. Go from there. All right. I think at this point I'm going to end this part on a good note before I do smell smoke. So thanks for watching.